Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to It's No Secret with Dr. T. Now, you may hear a bit of noise in the background. This particular episode, we're recording it live at Podcast Movement in Philadelphia, 2018, and we're at the TalkShoe booth, and which we're using microphones from Heil.
Wow, Heil microphones.
Heil microphones.
And the sound is awesome.
The sound is awesome. And my guest today is Dave Fries, who was back on episode 2, and we're talking about communication, persuasion, and influence. So I've got Dave back because Dave is at the conference with me, and we're going to talk about Force Multipliers and how that relates to business. So Dave, welcome. Are you enjoying Podcast Movement firstly?
I am enjoying it immensely. Thank you for having me back. It was my pleasure to be there at the start for episode 2. And as you know, I am never short of things to talk about when it comes to force multipliers so that people can apply them to their life and to their business and get, just wring more out of it, more juice from the squeeze.
I always like that thing, more juice from the squeeze. So, but when people are talking about force multipliers, what is a force multiplier? So somebody, if they've never heard that term before, how would you describe that?
Sure. So I'm fond of talking about business force multipliers, and I spend a lot of time interviewing people who've served in various branches of the military before because they're used to the real force multiplier. So the real force multiplier, a great example might be night vision. I think that's one we talked about on the last one, where if you equip a soldier with night vision and they can engage the enemy at night, they're way more powerful than the enemy. It took a well-trained soldier, made him way more powerful. And force multipliers, if you couple them together, you put 2 or 3 together, they can be really powerful. So if you train a special forces operator and they use night vision as well, now you've got these carefully selected, carefully trained operators, and you give them night vision.
Oh, so what you're saying, so you can take someone who's trained give them a force multiplier, say night vision, for example, and they'll be more powerful than, say, 4 or 5 other men that don't have night vision.
Yeah.
But you give it to someone who's super trained, like a Navy SEAL, and you give them night vision, and all of a sudden they're like the power of 20 or 30 men.
Exactly. In fact, your numbers aren't very much off. They're right on the money.
I've heard you talk about this before, so the numbers are stuck in my head.
So that's where this idea of a force multiplier came from, but we've just taken it, and you and I are constantly meeting people who are using these force multipliers, either that they learned in the military or in military service or in clandestine service if they were spies, or in my case, I talk to interrogators. And we say, well, how did you take what you learned there and apply it in business? And then we kind of track from there and figure out how can we create business force multipliers that we can teach people that'll magnify the effectiveness of their marketing, magnify the effectiveness of the kind of people they hire, magnify the effectiveness of their training or their systems.
Okay, so night vision makes sense when you're talking about military. There's probably a lot of other military examples. So what's a good example in business? What's a simple one that, regardless of the type of business somebody's doing, that they go, tell me, just give me one force multiplier straight away. Give us one example straight away. And then you're going to give us a lot more.
Yeah, so these aren't sexy, but obviously
They don't always have to be sexy, Dave.
No, I prefer it, though.
Yeah.
So you know, if you don't have a really good client relation management system, a CRM, that piece of software is a giant force multiplier.
Okay.
And if you couple that with really effective training, or really a system of hiring people who love to use that kind of software and who love to learn and self-improve, now you've equipped the Navy SEAL with the night vision because you've figured out, okay, who loves to use this software? Who loves to constantly learn? How do I build a good training system for them? Maybe I even get the software company to show me how to train them more effectively or give us access to an online system. And now we've got this highly motivated, fast-learning professional that's come on board to use this software in the most effective ways for us.
So just having the software alone is sort of like the person just having night vision. And then them getting training from a software company is turning them then into a Navy SEAL. So therefore they've got the same software, but now they actually know how to use it. So just having the software alone will help, but if you don't know how to use it, you're going to be pushing all the wrong buttons.
And this gets to a major meta-level force multiplier, like the force multiplier that governs all these other force multipliers, which is that if we think about things strategically and we plan, so if we figure out, well, who is our very best client, patient, customer, member, subscriber?
Yeah.
What do they look like? They're the ones that pay us the most. They love us. They love the way we do stuff. They love it when we do things we think are fun. They love that. They attribute value to that. They pay us happily. They don't hold back. We don't have to chase them for money. Once we figure them out, we'll know, well, how do they like to hear from us? Oh, they like to hear from these channels. Then that's going to tell us, when we do these kind of strategic planning, it's going to tell us what should that software be able to do really well. So if we have a choice of 2 or 3 softwares and we've used a mega sort of meta level force multiplier, we're going to know which one to use. And now we know more what the Navy SEAL looks like when we're going to hire them.
Okay, so we've got the normal person just using the CRM program. Then with training from the CRM company, we're turning it into a Navy SEAL. But then we then identify who in our patient, client, customer avatar is the ideal person using that CRM, and that's taking it to a whole new level.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to describe it. And I'll give you one more example. Then we can go any direction you want.
I love it. We'll go anywhere.
It's usually going any direction.
How are you coping with the background noise? You're okay with that?
I'm doing okay with it.
So if anyone's just tuned in, you hopped into your friend's car, just want to let you know, we're at Podcast Movement 2018. We're recording this live. I thought it was going to be in a booth, but we're actually not in a booth. We're actually set up at this square table, and we're in the middle of a hall with people going backwards and forwards all around us, which is I've never had to try and do an interview with this many people around me and try and stay focused on what we're talking about.
It's pandemonium. We are at the TalkShoe studio they've set up here.
Yeah, which is cool.
But we're not enclosed. We're in the heart of a thronging crowd.
I know. And the mics. We've just got to mention the mics that we use again, which is Heil Sound, Heil, which is pretty cool.
I think they should pay you for this extensive sponsorship.
Well, they didn't ask us to do that, but we just think they've set this up for us. We may as well give them a plug at the same time.
And the mics are outstanding.
They are pretty good, aren't they?
And they're my voice sounds incredibly sexy.
You sound extremely sexy.
I've been out shouting at people on the street all morning.
So let's get back on track.
Yeah. So another example might be if you wanted to run a reactivation campaign. So this idea of reactivation is a force multiplier. You're getting somebody who used to do something to do it again. Well, we take it another level. We say, well, we don't just have to reactivate an old client, customer, patient member that went off the grid. Could we reactivate prospects who looked good but went cold? Could we reactivate centers of influence that refer to us? Could we reactivate clients to buy? Could we reactivate them to make referral or to give us outstanding testimonials?
I like that one you just mentioned then about people who used to refer to us who don't. And people forget about when they're doing reactivation campaigns, it's always, reactivating existing patients who have not, or existing customers who haven't purchased for, say, 18 months or 2 years.
It's a limiting view, though.
That is a very limiting view. So you're opening it up so you don't just reactivate them, reactivate so many different areas in your business.
And then, what if we add on to that? So if we reactivate, let's take a classic one. We reactivate a customer that hadn't bought.
Yeah.
Or a member that let their subscription stop. We bring them back in. So if we couple that with a campaign to make them stick longer and or use the product, so a stick campaign or a campaign to encourage consumption or use.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example in a second. So if we take reactivation and we use it more broadly and we couple it with a stick campaign that makes the person last 5 months longer than they otherwise would have.
Yeah.
Major force multiplier. And then what if on top of that, we also develop a better, more interesting, more powerful, more profitable, higher margin upsell. So if we reactivate somebody, but we only sell them one thing and they don't last very long, it's worth something to us, sure. But if we do these other two things, we reactivate them, we make them stick, we make them more engaged, and then we get them, a certain percentage of them, to take a purchase of an upsell that wouldn't have otherwise been there. Oh man, all of a sudden this is worth so much more. Because we're delivering. You wouldn't think, Tyson's waving for me to get closer to the microphone. The two of us are supposed to know what we're doing. Apparently, he's the only one here that does now. But Tyson, you know, my point is that without that upsell, we haven't served the client, customer, patient, member in the best way. Because certain of them want and need more, and we just delivered it to them. And we haven't optimized our profits in that.
So you're saying, the reactivation campaign is the force multiplier, but then it's reactivating at a different level.
That's another force multiplier.
Another force multiplier. And then adding on the upsell is like the meta, taking it to that meta level?
Oh,
or is there another level again?
Well, so there was one more level in there, which is that if we could create a stick or consumption campaign. And I'll give you a quick example. I don't know if you have these in Australia, but I bought a solo stove. So I bought a little camp stove to hike with, and sure enough, it burns everything, and it's awesome, and it does a good job. And I thought, well, I have lots of fireplaces and bonfires. You've been to my house, but you can never have too many. So I bought a bigger one.
Yeah.
And Solo, I posted a picture of it on social media, and Solo immediately got back to me and said, hey, thanks for buying that. By the way, do this. And then the next day, I started getting, they spotted me on social media. So here's another force multiplier. Encourage your clients, customers, patients, buyers, to show people what they're doing, and jump in, reinforce it. But then an email campaign started to me, which was triggered, I'm sure, by my purchase, saying, hey, toast some marshmallows around your Solo stove. Oh, have you made pancakes on the griddle on your Solo stove? Have you had people over for a wine night on your? I'm making some of these up, but you get the point. Is they're now encouraging me while I'm hot on the Solo stove to use it all the time and make it part of my routine, entertaining during the summer, rather than just let it fade away. And so super powerful.
So it's staying in touch with you and offering suggestions where you're sitting at home on a Saturday night and you get the email and it says, have you thought about doing this on your Solo stove? And you go, actually, I hadn't used it all this week. Maybe we'll have some friends over and we'll cook some fish on the Solo stove.
And that's a brilliant example because now they've gotten you to engage with their product.
With your friends.
With your friends.
Yeah. And I want a Solo stove.
Yes.
Because I've seen it at your place,
and it's
even though
fancy.
It was raining and we didn't get to use it. But
had it not been, we'd have had fires going all the time.
Yeah, and I a friend, Nikki Jerd, who while I was at your place actually saw her post something on social media, and she said, finally got something we've always wanted, and they've built like a Solo stove type thing in their backyard,
nice.
And they were cooking on it.
Yep. But, it doesn't matter what product it is. This idea of layering multiple forms of force multipliers in, and so I sort of identify very high-level force multipliers as things like marketing and planning.
Yeah.
Planning is at the highest level. Being strategic is at the highest level. Because a lot of times people jump in. They think, I'm going to use a force multiplier of sending out an email. Well, without thinking, is this email the way that your best customers want to hear from you about this thing? So going up a level or two, and then with each level asking, is there a better, richer, fuller, more interesting way I could use it? So reactivation campaign, sure, on the face of it, it sounds like a great force multiplier, but most people think, as you observed, of using it only for that one purpose, get those clients and customers back. But there's all these other ways we can use it. And then if we're going to use it, whatever system they come into to buy or refer or give us testimonials or whatever it might be, shouldn't we bolt on something that rewards that, encourages them to use it, makes them stick longer, gets higher level of engagement?
Is it like encouraging good behavior?
Yes, which I'm not. I'm sort of skilled at encouraging bad behavior.
Yeah. No, but it's like you're working with a child. You encourage good behavior. So you're saying marketers or businesses should be, they see someone using their product or doing something, posting on social media, and you're encouraging, you use it more, you post it more, and we will thank you more.
Yes, and we're going to give you ideas, which you call. So at a surface level, most people don't think about this idea of telling people how to use the Solo stove. Well, that's a great idea. But if on top of it you say, and when you use the Solo stove, post a picture of it because we'd love to see it.
Yeah.
And if we use your idea, you're going to be entered to win this prize or product or service or a mini Solo stove.
It's really about thinking about engagement.
Yeah, thinking about engagement as it leads to consumption. So, we're using Solo stove so people don't eat it up.
Yeah.
But if you're sending
and we're not sponsored by Solo Stove, just
no, but they should. If Solo Stove is listening to this, we probably, before this post, should call them up.
Yeah, we probably say, hey, you get mentioned a lot in this particular episode.
I mean, Tyson, I've spent a week with you here in America.
Yeah.
You've got needs, and they're expensive.
I do have needs, yes.
Yeah. So Solo Stove should be helping out.
Flick one over to me.
Yeah.
So what's the next step when it comes to like force multipliers? Say somebody they've had their business for a while, and they've just listened to those parts, and they go, "My God, this is nobody has told me this information before." Which if you came along to Dave's event in Arizona,
Yes, thank you for mentioning it.
I will. We'll give that a plug as well.
It's because I'll owe you a check then.
Yeah, probably. Business Black Ops.
Thank you.
What is it? What date is in October? I know I'm going.
It's October. I think the VIP is maybe the 3rd or 4th, but it's Thursday,
I think it's
Friday,
4th, 5th,
Saturday.
and 6th of October. Yeah.
Yep.
And then, if anyone's listening to this, Dave is actually speaking at my event in Cairns on the 17th of August.
Looking forward to it.
Communication, Persuasion, and Influence, which is going to be, it's going to be fun. So we're doing a one-day masterclass with the man himself, Dave Freeze. And I know off the top of my head, there's 7 tickets left.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which is awesome. So it's going to be a sellout.
I will tell you, if you come, I guarantee you're going to have an unfair advantage. Now, I know business audiences could sometimes say, I've heard this before. But Tyson, you could speak to this. I have a unique way of presenting these bizarre skills that I've learned.
Well, I've traveled. Is this my 5th year? I think
it's
I've
your
traveled
5th year.
to Arizona.
I'm honored.
For the event.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I came across it purely by accident. You were at another conference. I was listening to you. You mentioned it. The following year, I came back for it. And I've been going every year, and it's on my calendar as something that I go to your event in Arizona because the stuff I learned there, I've never learned at any other conference. I've heard people touch on the subject about communication, persuasion, influence, force multipliers, OODA loop.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm a master of teaching the OODA loop.
Yeah, so while we're on the OODA loop, just mention what the OODA loop is all
Sure.
about.
So I teach the OODA loop as a force multiplier.
Can you spell it? Spell the OODA loop.
O-O-D-A. Capital O-O-D-A. OODA loop.
OODA loop.
Colonel Boyd created it. He was an Air Force full bird colonel, as I recall.
Yeah.
And he developed this concept to be used by U.S. fighter pilots in air-to-air combat with the Russian MiG. And so the OODA, I won't spoil it for everybody, but you're basically observing, orienting, deciding, acting, repeat process.
And that's the loop.
That's the loop. So the pilot will do something to cause the Russian MiG pilot to have to make a change in what they were planning on doing. And now you're going to repeat the loop again. And if you can be successful at consistently forcing your enemy to adjust to conditions that you're making them adjust to, it could be very, very powerful. You're going to defeat the enemy. So
I'd say, so what you're doing, you're orientating things to make them do something that they don't realize that you're actually forcing them to do it.
Or even if they realize it, they've had to do something other than what they wanted to.
Okay.
And now you have an advantage because you forced them to do it. You're seeing how they react to it. Now, there might be hundreds of possible reactions, but once they make the reaction, you're going to OODA loop again. You're going to say, okay, that pilot did this. So now I'm observing it. I'm orienting again. I'm deciding what to do next. I'm pulling the trigger. I'm acting on it.
Okay.
And if you cycle through the OODA loop faster than your opponent, you're inevitably going to win. Now, there are variations of that we teach as a business force multiplier, but the simplest one is, most people think of this as testing. I send out a direct mail piece, and half of them go to the recipients in a Tyvek envelope, and half of them go in a manila envelope.
Okay.
The Tyvek envelope's much more expensive, so if we don't get a bigger response out of it, why spend the money? If the manila envelope gets more people to open it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if the little bit of extra expense on the Tyvek matters, then it might make us a lot more money. But with OODA, you don't stop there. You go, okay, well, depending on how expensive is the thing I'm selling, why don't I then send half in the Tyvek, which is the winner, and why don't I send the next half in a Priority or FedEx Express Mail or some other kind of envelope and test it. So we're in a constant process of doing and then seeing what happens, reevaluating, doing again. We don't stop. We're always optimizing. Now, of course, there's a point at which we've wrung everything out of it that we reasonably can, and now any changes we make might be incremental and small. So there's a point where you know where to slow down and stop that too. But here's the key thing. Even if people say, I like the idea of OODA loop, I'm testing and then I'm testing again and I'm testing again. And now so if I bought 10,000 names on a mailing list that seems to be working, I've only done this with a couple thousand before I send to everybody, but I've already optimized for that. Right?
Okay. So is it sort of like, so the OODA loop is almost like testing and measuring or doing A/B testing?
But then rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And going back, and because a lot of people don't test. A lot of people that do test the wrong things. They only test them one time.
Or they just test it one. They do,
Yeah.
I'm going to do, they're trying to come up with what's the word that I'm looking for, Dave? Come on, help
like
me
a
out
control.
here. No. You're writing an article, a headline.
Oh, a headline. Okay.
Yep. A headline. So you're trying to come up with a headline. So you come up with 2 headlines for the same article, or a headline, to open up an email. And they do 1, 2. Oh, this one worked the best. That's the one they go with, but they don't rinse and repeat.
Right.
They don't come back enough and just keep revolving around it.
The reason for that is most people don't think about it, and even the ones that do it, do not schedule in. Like, we have 4 basic products and services we sell in this one firm that I was founder of.
Yeah.
But we schedule 4 meetings a year.
This is your law firm.
My own law firm.
Give your law firm a.
We
said the name of your law
they
firm.
can sponsor you. They can sponsor you as well.
Yeah.
It says it's Unruh, Turner, Burke, and Fries. So there's about 50 people work there.
Yeah.
It's a great group of people, but it's enormously expensive to run a law firm. So we don't just talk about these things.
Yeah.
A lot of what I teach comes from me theorizing about them, testing them, optimizing them, consistently doing them. So if I can return to an earlier example, I've been teaching people how to identify when they have a slow time, which most people do either seasonally or when certain things happen.
Yeah.
Then there are KPIs usually where we can see them coming.
So you got warning. They say you have got the KPI in price. So you go, okay, we've got warning that this is going to be a slow period, as it was maybe last year. So we know based on a history, but even though history doesn't always have to repeat itself, but
it's likely to.
But if you've got the KPIs in place, even if you might have a month where normally it would be busy, but KPIs can tell you if it's not going to be.
This year for some reason or another.
Yeah.
So the simplest example would be at the end of the year, this is one we know is going to recur.
Yeah.
We tested this out. We went to people, we said, we just got a bunch of big bills in for next year. Costs us way more to provide our services to everybody. We regret that, but we're going to raise the prices. Here's why. And at one level, they don't care about that, but here's what they do care about. We say, look, January and February are a little quieter for us. So if you book now for an appointment in January, February, March, once March is over, we're back into tax time again.
Yeah.
Busy as all get out. But January, February, March, we'll lock in the 2017 pricing for 2018, the 2018 pricing for 2019. Well, these are very sophisticated people we're working with. And they go, well, sure, I want that. I want the old pricing. So we just filled up a bunch of lawyers' schedules for months with this very simple, well-timed.
But using KPIs to let you know that was actually going to happen. We used to have, when I had my podiatry clinic, going back a number of years ago, April used to be like our worst month. And I used to say to everyone, if you want to take 3 weeks holiday or something like that, just take it in April. It is always dead in April. So we did that, it was like 3-4 years, always dead in April. KPIs were telling us it was going to be dead in April, always was. But then we started applying and coming up with ideas based on sort of, you're talking like force multipliers. Before I'd heard the term of force multiplier. And we started applying that leading up to April, knowing that it was going to be quiet. And all of a sudden, I'm pulling my hair out going, why did I let the other guy go on holidays? This is absolutely crazy. And April, which is funny, ended up becoming one of our busiest months of the year.
Well, because you systematically put in place the things that made it so.
Yeah, and then we had this big, what did I do? Because sometimes in business you do things without knowing you're doing it. You get successes, but you don't go back and reevaluate why were we so successful this month and learning from it and then go, okay, well, we can do it again next month.
You just hit upon an amazing meta-level force multiplier, which is awareness.
Yeah.
So most people are not situationally aware in business or in life. And once you do become aware of things like this, you can, or aware of assumptions you're making, you can deal with them in a totally different way. However, it's very hard for humans to see the lens through which they are viewing the world. And so that's why one of the things that we do at this event that you were describing is that we have a period of time where we mastermind, where people will present things they're doing in their business that are successful or unsuccessful, and other people who are not in the same business can often see things that the business owner or the professional practice owner cannot see because they're so steeped in their own assumptions.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that where somebody in the audience who's intelligent, runs a $20 million business, says to somebody who's running a $4 million professional practice, totally different kind of work, well, why do you do that? And they say, well, here's why. And then you'll see another audience member say, well, that doesn't necessarily make sense. And we dig down and we find out they were making an assumption that is not true and was actually hurting them. But you can't see it because it's like wearing the pair of glasses. You see what you're seeing. You don't see the glasses.
Yeah. So what we were talking about when I mentioned we had put things in place, we'd identify things. We come up with our own force multipliers. Good that they are positive. But what can actually happen is people can use it in a negative way, where they're assuming things are a certain way, and they're running with that assumption and making mistakes.
And they may not even be aware of the assumption.
Yeah. But this is part of the problem, I think, sometimes with coaching and mentoring, where somebody's had a successful business. Just because they've had a successful business doesn't qualify them to be a coach or mentor, because they never really understood why they were successful.
Right.
And what worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for the next person. So because I do mentoring, and people will ask me, how do I do this? I have to always say, I do this, and this is how I did it. But this may not actually be exactly what works for you. Different town, different type of business. You've got different likes and different patients.
Yeah, who maybe have slightly different preferences.
Yeah.
So for a great example would be, for me, I could still send out a CD or DVD that had information on it. People would use it up, because my very best clients, in the case of the law firm, are sort of 52 to 67. So they're starting to use their phones for podcasts and downloaded content and streaming content, but they're quite happy still to get this old technology, and many of them have insisted that their cars be equipped with the old CD player, even though it's a new car.
Yeah.
So, there are these little differences where you could provide the same kind of content, but in a very different medium or modality or way of doing it. And so it's more, the really great coach gets it.
Yeah.
That I've got to really help them find out what's the same and what's the difference. And then while a technique that you use to build your own business might have application, it might need to be significantly adapted. And so that's why the coach is there to help with that meta level of planning.
Yeah, okay. So, Dave, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and
this has been exciting.
They're going to boot us off the microphone.
Already menacing.
We've only gave us a limited amount of time. How would you like to finish up? What's something, say, like I used to do, I like to ask my Monday morning tip. It's Monday morning, someone bumps in and says, hey, Dave, I heard you talking about force multipliers. What's the one thing I should do when I walk into work Monday morning? What's the first thing I should do?
So a gigantic force multiplier that fuels all the others is to, if you're a business owner or own a professional practice, doesn't matter what size, you've got to start blocking time to be strategically thinking about these things.
Okay.
Identifying when you're slow, identifying what KPIs you should be using, identifying what marketing you're going to use. So blocking time where you're working at a higher strategic level. And then the final thing I would say is blocking some time where you're not doing any of those things. You're just doing something that gives you incredible joy or health or energy. Even if it's only for a half hour or an hour here and there. It's reading a book you've wanted to read. Here's why. Without that Renaissance time, I have a friend, Perry Marshall, that's what he calls it, Renaissance time, where you're building your brain and just feeling better. You're not going to get those truly deeper insights aligned with who you really are, the unique things that you bring to your business and your products and your services.
Is it just having a mental break? You just need to recharge. They say you need to recharge your brain, but it's just doing something that you like doing, makes you feel good.
And here's another force multiplier. When you sometimes say these profound but really basic sounding things, people go, oh, that can't be it. But the truth is, when you hear your brain saying that, your brain's probably trying to run away from the very thing that's it. So when you hear that, instead of following that voice, explore a little bit. Like, if you don't block the time to do this, how's it ever going to get done? People are going to eat your time.
I know. And I've talked to people who you'll talk about mentoring or coaching or just going to a conference. Oh, I don't have the time to do that.
Right.
Oh, you should take a holiday. I don't have the time to take a holiday. And you're thinking, well, if you have a heart attack tomorrow, or you fall gravely ill and you have to be off of work for 3 months, you know what? You're going to have time then.
You're not just saying that because of how scratchy my voice sounds, right?
No, but I just know that, I know so many people that work themselves to the bone,
right,
are not prepared to take a break, but eventually they're going to be forced to take a break through illness. Why not take a break and enjoy that week off instead of having the week in the hospital. And use Force Multipliers to actually do it.
And if you're in Australia or a Kiwi, you could leap over. Go to the next best thing would be go to your conference. We'll spend a day with them.
Look, that's what I said. If you're free on the 17th of August, 2018, come up to my event in Cairns. Dave, the Master Communicator Freeze, is going to be doing a masterclass, one-day masterclass on communication, persuasion, influence, and you will be talking a lot more extensively about the OODA loop and Force Multipliers
and how to apply these things: marketing, management, intake. You name a aspect of your business you want to be better at. We're going to be talking about how you build these skills, how you make them work better.
I can't wait because, like I said, I've spoken
excited
about this. Like your event that I go to is 3 days. I've heard you touch on this, so I've probably listened to you talk about this subject 15 days so far. I've listened to you talk
and
on
you're not
audio.
Bored?
No, because every time I hear it, I pick up something new. This conversation we've just had right now, you've said certain things that I've heard you say before, but it's got my mind. I feel like Ricochet Rabbit at the moment. I don't know if you know who Ricochet Rabbit is. Ding, and my mind is just thinking of all these different ideas. And I think that the mother of learning, repetition. It's just you need to just keep hearing things.
And you're hearing them with a different brain than you heard them last time. Different circumstances. Different situation.
True. Every year you're a year older.
Yep.
And wiser, hopefully.
Yep.
So, Dave,
thank
you for coming back on This Inner Secret with Dr. T and joining me in this booth with all the noise in the background. Now, if anyone's listening to this, I hope the noise in the background hasn't annoyed you. If it has, you're soft. Harden up.
Right, harden up.
Yeah, just harden up. What would Chopper say? And, so, Dave, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to post this on In Top Form's podcast.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be absolutely fantastic.
So we'll share.
So, In Top Form,
We'll
in case people are wondering, Dave Freeze also has his own podcast called In Top Form. Go and check it out. How would you describe your show, Dave?
It's just focuses on business, but lots of personal aspects of your life too. Ways to be better at everything you do and enjoy life a little bit more.
That's cool. I'll put a link in the show notes to your podcast.
Thank you, my friend.
I listen to it on a regular basis, and I always look at it this way. If people like this show and they like my guest, who's Dave, you're going to like your podcast as well.
Oh, all of our listeners that listen to you love it. There's a real compatibility.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode with Dave Freeze. I always say, when an opportunity arises, you've got to jump on it. And that's what we had at Podcast Movement. TalkShoe had a booth set up. Well, it was really a table in the crowds, which you could tell by the background noise. But the opportunity was there for us to record an episode. So I thought, let's put it together. Let's put it out as a bonus episode because Dave is going to be speaking at my event on the 17th of August in Cairns. So if you've been thinking about coming up to Cairns for a long weekend, maybe this is the weekend you need to do it. And you can also make it tax deductible. So, okay, look after yourselves. Take care of your family. And remember, tune in every Monday for my normal weekly episodes. Okay, bye for now.